We're on live.
All right, cool. I think we're live. Yeah, so thanks everyone for joining today. I've not done a Moonbuilders workshop in a while. Usually Kevin is doing a great job there, but he's out for this one, and so it's my turn to take back on the task of doing the workshop. Today we have Nino from the Apillon team. We also have Bram who will be joining later, but I'll do like an introduction about Apillon really quickly. I'll do an introduction about Nino and Bram who will, like I said, will be joining later. And then I'll let Nino take it away and explain to you what he brings to us today. Originally, we had Padesh. Hopefully, I'm pronouncing it right. But unfortunately, he got sick. You can control those things, and so we got Nino backing him up. So yeah, if you don't know Apillon, let me give you a little bit of background, right? I mean, as a developer, blockchain is hard and can be daunting, right? I mean, it's not easy sometimes to interact with a blockchain, especially with a new blockchain and so on. And since, the creation of like Ethereum, which it was probably the first blockchain that you can build on top of, tools have been created that try to abstract as much as possible, right? From the complexity of the blockchain. You have tools like, Ether.js, Hardhat, and then Foundry that are always abstracting ways for you to interact with the blockchain. But sometimes it's not enough. You need more abstraction and more abstraction, especially if you're trying to target developers that are not familiar with blockchain. And then when you go back to now Polkadot is like, it's way more complex to use and way more complex to interact because you don't have only one blockchain, you have many that need to work together to sort of create a more powerful blockchain environments for developers, right? And so think about what this means, right? I mean, if initially, dealing with blockchains is not easy, now dealing with Polkadot is far more complex for developers than Ethereum, right? And so this segue is just to introduce Apillon. And Apillon is trying to abstract all those complexities, right? All these things for developers so that they can have a much nicer experience when dealing with like Polkadot and developing on top of Polkadot and the parachains. Probably Nino will do a way better job than me explaining it, but that was my introduction to Apillon. And let me introduce you briefly about Nino. Actually, I felt kind of like, that we come from familiar backgrounds in the sense that, you don't have, I guess from what we discussed, you don't have like a huge background in like, computer science and things. You have a background in graphics and media technology, but then you jump into the startup world and roll up sleeves on different roles, ranging from a developer, CTO, to a startup founder. And so now he's experienced in front and back end development, user experience, marketing, and growth. So, it's like a jack of all trades. And, he has a really good comprehension of Web3 from a technical perspective and a futuristic standpoint. And yeah, I think, he's the chief product officer at Apillon. So yeah, take it away, Nino, and thanks for joining for this session of the Moonbuilders workshop.
Thank you very much, Alberto, for these kind words. Wish I could return the favor, or maybe someday. But yeah, essentially, can I also kick off my presentation right now? Share the screen?
Yeah. Yeah, I would say go for it, share your screen, and, take it away. I'll be in the background listening, and I might jump in with if I find a good, interesting question to ask while you're presenting. So go for it.
Let me just find this thing real quick. All right. So do we see this now? Is it okay? Do you see the slideshow?
All good. We see the slides.
All right. So for this workshop, I have prepared just a few slides, and then we're gonna move into the demoing, or you guys can also follow along. The idea is that if you have an account already on Apillon, you could be clicking as I'm clicking and achieve a self-sovereign deployed NFT collection with zero development knowledge. So this would be my take in the next 30 minutes. And then Bram is gonna, as our ambassador and as one of our users, is going to show you or give you his personal feedback on what he encountered, what was good, what was bad, also things like that. So you're gonna get an objective opinion from him, I believe so. So on the topic of Apillon, definitely I would like to talk that Apillon is a Web3 development platform. and our main vision is to empower developers. So we are, looking at around 60 million JavaScript developers who are now working in Web 2. And we know Web 3 is coming. It's inevitably here, and it's going to change our lives. And, for those developers who are now really focused in Web 2, who have all the tooling available there, they want this kind of experience before they switch. So this is where Apillon comes in and tries to abstract as many things as possible, as already said in the intro. Not to prolong this introduction and how to say the theory behind the product too much, I have this fancy diagram which touches how we specifically work with Polkadot, right? So if we look at the left side, we have parachain 1, parachain 2, parachain 3, parachain N. So we have several parachains, and it's very specific for Polkadot, where parachains come and they solve one single issue, right? So we have a parachain like Moonbeam solving smart contracts, EVM smart contracts, and how to do them on Polkadot. Then we have a parachain that takes care of storage. We have a parachain that is all about decentralized identities, stuff like that. So once we start piling those things up and we say, okay, what does this parachain do? What kind of service do they actually provide? We can look at those parachains as business services, right? They are a service. They provide a specific service. And once you have this listed out, you figure out that with few parachains, you can already be thinking about the full stack development, right? You can say, right, we have smart contracts, we have storage, we have identity or some sort of authentication, we have compute, and all this is delivered by different parachains. So instead of one developer going to every single parachain, figuring out how they work, how does their SDK operate, buying their tokens and holding them in one wallet, and then developing on all those parachains, they can come to Apillon, get simple APIs, and just utilize the background technology. That's what we're all about. We are not a parachain. We're a layer on top of parachains, and we do the heavy lifting on the back end, so you can really focus on the front end and making your Web3 DApp or Web3 website, whatever, really cool, and focus on the user experience. So I would say, yes.
I wanted to jump in really quickly, Nino. Like, if you can go to the slide that you had,
Yes.
the fancy diagram, like you called it. One
Yes.
thing that as a parachain, like myself, right? I didn't introduce myself, by the way. I'm Alberto. I work at developer relations. So, one of the things that is really cool about Apillon is that Moonbeam might have its own API, right? For one thing, then you have Crust having an API for another thing. And then you have this other parachain with an API for another thing. And so if you as a developer would want to leverage all those different components, you would have to learn 3, 4, 5, 6 different APIs at a time, which is this is not easy, right? I guess what's really cool about Apillon is that you're trying to sort of like solve the problem of like that even us like teams, it's really hard for us to work with each other sometimes because everything is moving so fast that if we integrate something from Crust, right? And Moonbeam, and then they change it. We have to like be up to date. While you guys are overlooking all the ecosystem, like the entire ecosystem, right? So you can be aware what's changed, what moved, and then for you, it's easier to sort of adapt your API that it will sort of like oversee all the other APIs, right? So I think it's really cool.
Yeah, I completely agree. We are in a position where we are like, watching like hawks on new parachains that are coming, and we're already thinking like, what can this parachain do for us? Maybe a whole scope, maybe just a small scope. And as I will show later in our dashboard, we go beyond that. So we're not just rewriting the SDKs. Obviously, that would be senseless. We're trying to look for synergy, right? So if you're doing an NFT collection, why not immediately use NFT metadata storage at the same time in the same flow, right? So we are what we're going to look at is a single flow where a user goes through the wizard and actually utilizes at least 2 or 3 different parachains, depending on their selection. So that's the theory behind Apillon, and mostly about today's workshop. How we're gonna go over it It's I'm going to show you how I created some images using Midjourney AI. Bram is going to talk about this in detail because he created the whole collection using AI. We will not stick on this too long. I just want, for everyone who is thinking, I would love to have my NFT collection, I have no clue how to, draw or illustrate or do something, you can now really work and do a lot with AI. Then I'm going to show you how to prepare this NFT metadata and pull it into Apillon and basically put it on IPFS via Crust. How to deploy NFT smart contract to Moonbeam from our dashboard, and then how to make your website from the template that we already made and host it with Apillon with your domain and have a self-sovereign NFT collection. Hopefully we're gonna do this in the next 20 minutes. I'm gonna be fast on that. I'm gonna supply you with a link to a GitHub repository. It's called NFT Workshop, and it includes everything I'm gonna be using today. So you have a CSV file with all the descriptions. You have some of the AI generated images, I think around 10 of them, and we have a React template already written where the only thing you have to do if you're not a programmer, you have to enter your NFT contract address, and this thing works immediately. So let's get started. As promised, and I will then close down the Discord. As you can see, I have this Midjourney bot, and I was generating, let's say, hundreds of different witches for a specific NFT collection. And here are the prompts, right? So I was going into some wood witch, sci-fi, dark green hair, front facing, holding staff, roots, stuff like that. And I was just going through the different colors. So I went and had, green witches, black witches, all this fantasy stuff. And literally I was first experimenting. As you can see here, I got some of the results which did not fit what I wanted. And then I was pivoting to different color schemes. So I would get, not just black or not just green, but also red hair, stuff like that. So simply by talking to AI, you can generate a lot. So I would conclude on this, and then I think Bram will tell us more on the topic. Now let's jump straight into how Apillon looks like, how it works, and so on. So to go really quickly over, I created a new account, so it's going to be empty. I'm also going to jump to an old account where I have several collections, some websites deployed, and so on. And the first thing, once you registered a free account, is to create a new project. You can have several projects. You can add other people to work with you on the projects, etc. But this is not so relevant, and I think it's like a basic functionality. So what we're going to be looking at today is how you can create your first NFT collection. And once you're logged in and you have your project, you basically go to NFTs. And once loaded, you can start creating NFTs. Now, as I said earlier, before you can deploy smart contract, of course, some of NFT metadata has to be ready. And to have NFT metadata, you need some sort of images. So let's say you either have your own images or you use AI, you generate 10, 50, 100 images. What you have to do then is open an Excel file, a spreadsheet, some sort, and simply list those images. So I simply name them 1 PNG to 10 PNG and give them name and description. Obviously, you can also add additional parameters like skin color, highlight color, background color, and these will all be included in the NFT on your smart contract on chain. So this is how, what I have at the moment. Let me just quit this. What I have prepared, and this is also included in the Git repo, which you're gonna get. So I have, let's look at basically, if you download this repo, so it's called NFT Workshop, the link is already included. what you have to do is just click here and download zip. Once you unzip this, you're going to get this folder, and it's going to include NFT images. As you can see, there are 10 images and a CSV file, NFTs CSV, which also calls to those 10 images. And this is the first step we have to do when deploying the smart contract and the NFT collection. So here we ask you simply, do you have the metadata? We click yes, proceed. We select the CSV file, which is in the folder, as I said, and we click proceed. We talked about 2 additional attributes like skin color and highlight color, which I have to tick and tag, right? So I have to check them in, and both are strings, they're text. So we leave this as string. If you would to use additional attribute like age, then it would probably be numerical value, so you would select number. Once confirmed, we have the CSV file loaded now into the system, but nothing yet happened, neither on the storage part. So nothing happened on the storage, nothing happened on the chain. It's just, in the browser. So now the next thing we need to provide are the images. So I'm going to select all the images I have prepared. And here we get the first preview, right? So in this preview, you can see whether the name of the picture and the picture, if they work together, if everything was okay with the CSV. And you can also switch into table view, which is more like a typical spreadsheet, right? So once you review this and you're happy with whatever happened, you can proceed. And here we start configuring our smart contract. So this is how we, deploy the collection. And these are the parameters we're giving for deployment to happen, right? So let's say this is a test deployment. We're gonna have, some name and some symbol, and we can even go to testnet, right? So we have Moonbeam, mainnet, and testnet. Yes.
I'm gonna interrupt you there, Nino. All right. Okay, cool. Yeah, so let's go back a little bit. I mean, to understand everything that you just started doing. You can yes. Stay in the NFT tab if you want. There we go. So I mean, up to now, you've not interacted with blockchain at all. You're basically, you created some images. In this case, using the journey. One thing that it's important is that you guys need to provide, the person needs to provide the metadata in a specific structure, right? And that's something that you need to, you have a template, so you need at least Apillon ingests this data in a specific type of structures that if you don't do it, the Apillon UI is not going to understand it, right? And so it is really important that you're providing the structure of the NFT, the attributes of the NFT in this specific structure, so that then the ingester from Apillon understands it, right?
Exactly. And just to say, so the first few columns in this file are basically standardized, right? So you would have to face this kind of data no matter where you go. And then you can add as many attributes as you want additionally, right? So essentially what we have here is bulk import for several NFTs in an Excel file. And if you have hundreds of them, let's say, then this is how you would be editing. You would give a name to this NFT, some sort of, some description, and you would enter, okay, this picture is called, I don't know, test.jpg, right? If this is how this image is called. And this is how then everything is put together when deployed on chain. So this is how NFTs are born in a way. They need some sort of data, and they need photos or some sort of media files to be included in them.
Yeah. And what standard are you using? Because from what I understand, you're asking people to sort of provide this metadata and this sort of the name and everything and the symbol. But yes. Underneath, you're using an NFT standard, right? That allows you to assign this attribute into a structure, exactly. Right? So
it's taken from the OpenSea standard, which was taken from some earlier standard from Ethereum. So whatever works on OpenSea, we have that supported, so it's compatible. So yeah, that would be the answer to that.
And have you thought about, I mean, because you're using OpenSea, right, which they're probably based in either ERC 721 or ERC 1155, but have you thought about, for example, I mean, I know that this creates a bit more complexity for the end user, but have you thought about, for example, also integrating the remark standard, and then you have the user to select like what type of, like, you know, hey, I maybe want to use the remark standard because remark has really cool features and attributes that, you know, I want to use instead of the OpenSea one, right?
Yes, I'm very glad you asked about Remark. We are in the final testing of Remark, and then it's going to production. So yeah, development is done on Remark. We need to polish the UI, do some testing, and it's going to be deployed. So
cool. And I'm actually super eager to see what you guys come up with, because I know the remarks. I mean, remark NFTs are a little bit more complicated, right? In the sense that you have like NFTs that, you know, have more complex attributes and more complex properties, right? So yeah. I'm eager to know how you're gonna abstract that a bit. So cool.
Yeah, I surely hope we're gonna solve it with time. I'm not sure we're gonna nail the UX on the first try, but you know, let's see and be surprised. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. So, I mean, up to now, so like, let's do recap right now, right, before you continue. So up to now, you've just, well, I mean, you logged into Apillon, and I have some questions about the login process, but I'll keep it after you finish. So you have basically prepared everything, but you've not done anything with blockchain right now. You're just preparing all the, like, the deployment, the stuff that you need to deploy the NFT right now. So
yes, cool. Right now. So right now, what we did basically is we uploaded the pre-made CSV file, the pre-made photos, which are included in the workshop files, and they're still basically in the browser. They're still not, you know, pushed into decentralized server, and nothing has happened on chain. And and we are now in the final step of. So we did the first step of the smart contract configuration. We gave it a title and a symbol, right? So this is what we did. And of course, because smart contract comes with several other options that we could do, those options have to be configured before the smart contract is deployed. And what we have now in front of us is the form that configures the smart contract before deployment. So if we go through these parameters, as you can see, we are configuring how the NFT collection will behave. The first question is, of course, the total supply. I would say for anyone who, you know, comes into situation not to understand what revocable means, use the tooltip, because we try to use human language to explain, you know, really what will happen if you do this on yes, right? So we said they can destroy NFTs, even though, you know, you can't really destroy them. So I would say, yeah. Use the tooltips. Anyway, first field is total supply. If we set this to limited, it's already preset for us to the amount of NFTs we uploaded. Because I uploaded 10 images and 10 rows of metadata, this is set to 10. Revocable is that, you know, if someone was to acquire this NFT, can you revoke it, you know, from that address? So we have this pre-configured to no, as well as soulbound to no. Royalties address, this is where royalties will go if this NFT is to be sold, you know, forward beyond the initial owner. And here is where you set the percentage fees for the royalties. So if I input 5, this means 5% of royalties of further transactions would get in on this address, which is obviously mine. If we go into drop, so we can configure this collection to be like to act as a drop and have a timestamp in the future, so people have to wait before they can mint until the countdown is finished. And reserve gives us ability to reserve some of the NFTs for us without payment, right? So this is where we set up the price of a single mint, and we press proceed. Now,
all right, sorry, I want to interrupt. Sorry that can you go back? Is it possible?
I'm not sure, but it's...
All right, no worries. I can. Oh, there you go. Okay, cool. Yeah, yeah. So I mean, this, just to be clear, right? All of this is part of the OpenSea standard, right? So this is, you're basically configuring the OpenSea NFT. Is that right?
No. So whatever we're doing here is going to be deployed to Moonbeam as an ERC 721 contract. The question is that, some of this information or standard comes from what OpenSea has, but this is still ERC 721. And that's it, right? So we're talking about additional attributes come from OpenSea standard, but this is
this is what I mean. Like what I mean is that, for example, if you are like a hard fan of like ERC 721s, which I'm not an NFT expert, by the way, but like royalty fees is not something that is normalized in the standard, like soulbound. And so, I mean, I guess this is like part of the OpenSea standard. They offer this like attributes and things that you can customize. And so what I'm guessing here is that if you guys are going to support Remark, you will see sort of like all these like configuration parameters for the Remark standard. And then if you decide to support the Alberto standard in the future, this is like where you would sort of like configure it as well. So yeah, cool.
Yes. I think we could do more in this specific view to make it even, more approachable. But I would say time will say, how to improve this even further and how to make it even more, even easier for users, because a lot can be done. Anyway, proceed. So now we are at the final step. Here is where you can preview, how the NFTs will look like, what is their title, their number, their description, and it's more or less just, like final preview, so you're really sure. And here you press deploy to blockchain. So this deployment now will take some time because it's not just the deployment of NFTs. Also, what we did in the background is we took the metadata and the images you have supplied, and we have pushed them to our storage. So as you can see, this was just now created. It's a storage bucket, which you can also create manually if you were to need, and it's also free of charge. And what happens here is we take all the metadata and all the images, and we push them into this storage bucket, which basically goes into Crust, which is an underlying parachain, which uses decentralized storage IPFS. So this may sound very complex, but essentially, really explained simply, is we make sure that metadata, so the information of your NFTs and the pictures, are stored decentrally. They are not stored on AVS, they are not stored in any centralized service, but instead they go to Crust, which is another parachain in Polkadot, and they are stored decentrally. And we do this automatically. Basically, you drag and drop or upload the metadata, and we push it up, and we immediately use it to deploy. So as you can see, we already have the contract address, which we could review, and it's still deploying. Now,
cool. I'll take some time here, just because it's it's blockchain and we have time. So yeah, that's one of the questions that I had actually before. Like, you have a project that is called Moonbeam Workshop. You can see the name at the top left corner of the screen. And in your project, you're using multiple services, right? And this is one of the things that we mentioned at the beginning of the presentation. You had this really nice diagram, fancy diagram, I think you called it, which you had like, multiple parachains, Apillon and APIs. And then, in this case, it's really clear what's happening here, right? You're using multiple parachains, let's say parachain 1 and parachain 2 in this sense, across the Moonbeam to create a service for an end user, right? What happens with IPFS, like I said, I'm not an expert, but normally is that you have the data stored in IPFS, but you need like a pinning mechanism. I think they call it a pinning mechanism. And that's what you provide. It is provided with Crust, right? And so you can see here that your information, it's stored in IPFS. You have the IPFS hash or whatever it's called. And then you have the URLs. There you go. Thanks. And so everything is stored like you would with other like pinning services like Pinata and everything. But this is happening inside a Polkadot ecosystem with Cross, which is a decentralized network for pinning storage, basically, right? And then you have the NFT side of things, which is now how you store that sort of, there you go, that's pretty cool. And then you have the NFT side of things, which is how you store that information on a blockchain so that services can build on top of it, right? So now, the storage is there, but it's not really usable unless you build an application, for example, in smart contracts that will use this pinned data to do something, right? Now, Nino can grab his NFT and then send it to me because I'm a friend, right? And so for that, he'll use smart contract and the smart contract side of the NFT. So can you hop back to the NFT just to see if we got it?
Sure. Let's just refresh. Sometimes the status could be, because we already have the contract. So I would say that this is already deployed. Yeah, so it's deployed. And right now we have max supply 10, minted 0, and this is the contract address, right? So I can share this if anyone wants to, review this contract that was deployed and how it was deployed on Blockchain Explorer. But extending on what was said about the NFT metadata, as I said, this bucket was created automatically. And if we look into it, we can see there are 2 folders. One is images, and these are all the images that I uploaded. Here are, like said, file CIDs and IPFS links. So if we look at one of those IPFS links, you can see this picture is served from IPFS, and this file is also pinned to Crust, which means now once the smart contract got deployed, the information about this NFT was burned into as a CID on IPFS, which means it cannot be removed from this kind of storage. It's unstoppable, it's decentralized, and your NFT has a potential to live forever. And this is untrue for other centralized cloud providers. Now to maybe speed things along, because I think I'm going 2 minutes above the time. I would like to touch the topic, what now, right? So we now have this smart contract deployed. We know that NFTs are there. What do we do now, right? So there's a slight difference between how you can deploy ERC-721 on Apillon and how you would deploy NFT collection on OpenSea. It's almost the same distinction as between selling something on Amazon, which is a huge marketplace and everyone sells their stuff there, or having your own e-commerce store with your own domain. So in the situation where you're looking for the latter, so you're looking to have your collection hosted by you, the complete website controlled by you with your own domain, then Apillon can provide this, while OpenSea is OpenSea, and we all know what you can do there. So the last step, what you have to do in this case would be deploy some sort of website, right? Which can display those NFTs and give you ability to mint them. Now I'm jumping to my main account on Apillon, not the new one, just to speed things along, but I can assure you this works very well. We now have to touch, so this is more for the, let's say, developers can now, start thinking and fiddling how they would work with this. As I said, this repo, NFT Workshop, also includes public SRC and package.json, which are all pre-made code for you guys in React.js with all the components you're going to need. So there are several components already written, like collection info, header, icon wallet, main, minting, NFT card, NFT gallery. Everything is included. And you can just download this, go into environment file, and put the contract address here. So when we are talking about which contract address, well, it's this contract address, right? So you just copy this, put it here, and you can drag and drop the website to our hosting. So what is hosting? It's also a derivative from a service offered by Crust and IPFS. And essentially, just like any old school cPanel or something like that, you can now come to Apillon, drag and drop your website, and it's going to get served from IPFS, and you can connect your domain. So if we look at the website I already have here, it's a bit longer website. I already adjusted it a little bit. but it's essentially the same template as we are already using. And I can open it up. So what I did is I deployed a smart contract just like we did before. I uploaded a lot of different pictures, Warhammer inspired, made with Midjourney. And if I connect my wallet on this website, you can see that the amount and the supply of these NFTs is shown. I can mint several of those NFTs. If I click my NFTs, only my NFTs are shown because my wallet is connected, while all NFTs means these NFTs were already minted by someone else. So if I jump into my MetaMask and I check NFTs, I do have one from Bram as well. And I also have Ghost Moon Warriors here. But I think I would have to switch the account to Moonbuilder. Let me check this. I have several NFTs minted. Let me just see. Why can't I see this? Anyway, you can import and see NFTs here like you would any place else. Maybe just one more minute on the topic of hosting. So how would I deploy something like that? On hosting, like I said, we have several files here, and once built, you can basically drag and drop the whole website. So all the files that compose your website, you drag and drop them, they get uploaded, and you click deploy to staging. So as you can see, we have 3-step deployment. One is uploading, then we have preview, which acts like a staging. And you can preview on IPFS link, while once you push to production, so deploy to production, also means we activate crust and pinning in the background, which usually creates around 15 to 20 replicas of this website across the world. Yeah, on the production tab, you can also set up the domain. So basically, you enter the domain you have, and this is the information you enter on your domain registrar. And then the website starts working. So very simple for those of you who already did this. Yeah, any questions?
I didn't know that, man. I actually have to try that out. I didn't know that you had hosting. So yeah. Yeah, actually, there's one really good question in the ask a question button. It's actually a question that I had. I was like, I can ask it, no worries. So at any point in the process that you showed, there was no like MetaMask or wallet pop up, right?
Yes.
Which is interesting, right? Can you explain what happened? Like why you didn't see any pop ups asking to sign a transaction and so on?
Yes.
So the question is from Socrates.
Of course, great question. Thank you very much for reminding me of this. So what is really important is when we're building UIs like this, we're thinking, a user will come, he will not necessarily have, this amount of tokens, or maybe he will not want to connect the wallet immediately, etc., etc. So we are always looking for a way to remove friction, remove friction first, and then give the, the rights back to the user, right? So what you can do is each time you deploy something, we're going to deploy it for you. We're going to pay underlying costs for you, which are, almost, they're as low as it gets, right? We still want you to be within full Web3 ownership, right? So once the contract is deployed from our side, we deploy it for you. You can always come and click actions and transfer ownership and take ownership of this smart contract and leave Apillon forever. If you do not want to engage, from our console or whatever, we always make sure you can, control whatever you built on Apillon from any side you want. So the same logic goes also for the storage. You could be, extending the storage parameters or leases outside of Apillon. You could be taking ownership of those files, etc., etc. So that's why you didn't see any wallets, because we say user experience first and then everything else.
Yeah, I think that's really cool. And I mean, that's actually, I think we discussed this before the workshop that,
Yes.
like the flow, for example, never requested a wallet. And that's why I wanted to ask you about the sign up process as well, right? Like when you're signing up, I think you have the possibility of signing up with a wallet maybe, but you also have the possibility of just like signing up with an email and that's it, right? Like you never get asked like what wallet you're using or not.
Yes and no. So right now, at this moment, you still have to use the email to register.
Okay.
And then you can add. So then once you're logged in,
okay.
you can connect wallet, and then basically use the wallet to log in. But we'll still have your email. This is about to change. So initially we were just building, as fast as possible, having some data of the user to be able to contact them, etc. But this is about to change. So you will be able to just click connect wallet and you are in and you can build. So yeah.
Cool. Okay, that's really cool. And for example, if I add my own wallet, can I actually say, hey, I don't want you guys to do the deployment for me. I'm one of these like, Web3 degens that I don't really trust anyone but myself. Can I do the deployment myself, or you are forcing users to use your like deployment service in this case?
No, of course you could. So from the functionality point of view, what you could do today is go to storage, say new bucket, upload the metadata and the images, and you would say, okay, this is everything I need, because then deploying the smart contract is trivial. It doesn't matter where it happens, but you have the metadata storage already taken care of. And then you can even go to OpenSea with this metadata, or to any other, Moonbeam also has a NFT store. You can jump there and just pull in the metadata and NFT start to happen, right? Because it is doable. But concretely on the question that you had, like, can I connect my wallet and deploy just the smart contract? Right now, no, but definitely with time, yes.
Okay, cool. Yeah, thanks. I do have other questions, but I do want to leave some time for Bram. So
Yes.
let's let it bring him on board. Let him do his thing, and then we can probably do a session of us three. If there's any time on the remaining questions. I think that's probably a good strategy.
Yeah, it's time for Bram. I did a lot of talking, so.
Cool. So yeah, let's try to bring Bram on stage. Thanks a lot, Nino. I think it was really interesting and really cool. So stick around because we'll bring you back with some questions. So let's see. All right. There you go. Scripto BYI. Hey, can you hear us, Bram?
Yes. Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yeah, good evening. Yeah, all good, man. All good. Yeah, so meet Bram. He is an Apillon ambassador. He's also known as Crypto BYI. Hopefully, that's how you say it. And he has a technical background with roles spanning from support roles to development and business improvements at Microsoft partners. He's a very big crypto enthusiast and a Web3 passionate and AI believer. But Bram, you don't have any substrate experience, right? So I guess the point of you here is just to show us a little bit of like how you can actually use substrate without knowing substrate, right? So.
No, I have no substrate knowledge. I did a tutorial, but that's it. Of course, I have some development knowledge from Microsoft background, but totally in substrate, Moonbeam or blockchain, I never did anything before. So the Apillon platform was really interesting for me. Can I do something with NFTs and set it up, hosting a website and mint it and finally list it on the marketplace? So all steps from the beginning till the end. So that was really interesting for me if I can do it without a lot of development knowledge, because it should be a platform for everybody, to easy to use and to do Web3, of create Web3 dApps, especially in this case, the NFT collection.
Cool. Yeah. So I mean, and so let me ask you a few questions, right? So how has been your experience creating NFT collections with Apillon? Have you ever tried creating an NFT like collection without Apillon and with Apillon? And can you talk a little bit about that?
No, I never did created the NFTs. Yeah, maybe one time for fun, because sometimes I don't know what I need to, why I need an NFT. But NFTs is really hot, especially last year. But it's more hot. You see that more companies launching NFTs, Starbucks, for example, but other big companies. So it's not only the digital art that is important, but more the utility behind it. So if you know if you can think about a great utility for it, then NFT is useful. So the art is just for nice to look for that. If there's nice art, that's just nice. But the utility behind this is more important. What my experience is. So with no utility, yeah, it's just an image.
Cool.
So
yeah, I agree.
That's my experience.
Oh, I thought it was my internet, but I guess it was his, right, Nino?
I think we both froze, but we'll see what happens.
Hey, Bram, we lost you for a bit.
Yeah.
You're back,
sorry.
I think.
You're back.
So, Bram, I think you had a slide or some slides, right? I don't know if you want to share your screen.
Yes, of course, Nino talked already a lot about it, but I created a sheet for somebody. Okay, where to start, what the next step, what the steps you have to make and to do till listing. Yep. So I'm going to share my screen. Okay. I need to click this. So can you see my screen?
Yep, all good.
Yep.
Okay. So you already did an introduction of me. So this is the most important slide that I created for this workshop. When you want to create an NFT collection, okay, what are the steps? What I have done for creating the Genius Markets collection. First step one. So if there are any questions, interrupt me. I can ask and answer your questions. So the first step is, of course, thinking about creating an art and define the utility and metadata. That is something about, okay, what makes my art unique, like a ranking or a type. So that's the most important step before I created an NFT collection. And I choose to use the meerkat, an animal. So I was inspired about that animal, and so I try to create an art of meerkats. And what I used is the Midjourney bot. Nino already told about that. So what I actually did, I enter some properties for my art, and actually what it is, what it created was a meerkat in my style. What I entered, so a cartoon, 3D character, and the ninja type. So I did it for 100 arts. Okay, and then it was for me enough. So it is for me. That was for me an interesting step. Okay, how can I easily create arts? Then do it manually by programs like Photoshop or some other tools that you can use. And it was my first experience with using AI. Okay, what it can do for you. So that was step one. I'm still in the meeting.
Okay. Yeah. You're good. I think because Nino took us to the mid-journey bit, I think that was clear. And I've seen a lot of like NFT collections, that have used AI to generate the images, which is pretty cool. Yeah, keep going.
Yeah. So that was really interesting to use that tool. But there are many other tools which you can use for creating arts. Step one is choose your blockchain. Of course, I know in front that I want to publish it on Apillon. So I had two options, Moonbeam or Astar. But Moonbeam was earlier, so I choose Moonbeam. Also because the fees for Moonbeam are lower at the moment. So and that's also important when you are mint an NFT and when you are trade an NFT or later transfer NFTs, that the fee if it's low, it's for me a benefit than other chains where the fees are higher, like Ethereum or some other chains. So this is important that you want to know, that you have to decide, okay, on which blockchain you want to launch it. Then, of course, you need a wallet. As Nino told, you need to set up a wallet for royalties, but also when people mint your NFT, then you want to earn something. So you need a wallet where the amount is transferred to. So in my case, I use MetaMask, and there's a lot of information about MetaMask, also about how to set up MetaMask for Moonbeam, so that makes it for me easier to set up a wallet. So that's my experience about setting up and using Moonbeam in the beginning of creating this NFT collection.
Yeah.
So then, step 4, and that was actually the first part that I'm going to use Apillon platform. So I need what Nino already showed before. I need to upload my art. I need to define and upload my metadata so that the NFT contract will be filled with my NFTs, my arts, combined with all metadata, so that I can use it and mint it on our website. I can let you show what I have done. You still you can see the Apillon platform now.
Yeah, we do see it with the Moonbuilders workshop project at the top left.
Yeah. So this part I will not explain because when you add a new project, then then of course you start by creating NFT. So it is a wizard which you have to follow and do the steps what Nino already explained. So for me, it was the genius Meerkats what I created. So this was really for me easy to use and to upload everything, especially through the wizard. So step by step, I could fill in all info what you need to generate an NFT contract with all your arts.
Can you drop the contract address in the chat just so that people can check it out? You can see it there.
I mean, with the images?
Yeah, it was in the previous screen. If you go to the NFT screen, on the previous screen, yeah, click on the copy button there and the contract address on the right hand side. Yeah, click there and then go to the chat in the
yes.
cloud tab. and then put it on the chat so that people can check it out. Yep. Thanks, buddy.
Okay.
That way people can just see it, right? I mean, because this will be recorded. It's recorded, so that people can see it at some other point in time.
Okay. This was for me an easy step to do it with the Apillon platform. So it automatically created in the background and storage with all your images stop. So with the images and the metadata. This is, for example, one of my meerkats. So I had 100 of them. And also maybe it's interesting about the metadata. So
this is the metadata stored in IPFS. As you can see,
and that's normally a difficult part. Okay, do it for all your NFTs once. So I already created an NFT collection with 800 NFTs. So create a metadata file for each NFT, in an easy way. So and that makes Apillon much easier for me to do it by the wizard in 3-4 clicks. Because if you do that manually, or I don't know which tool I can use, but this was really for me easy to use to generate for every art, for every NFT and metadata file like this.
Cool. Yeah. So, Bram, we only have a couple of minutes left. So I think if you want to wrap it up using the slides and explain briefly the other steps, that would be great. So we can wrap it up.
Yeah. So the next step was creating a website. What I used is a template. So I used some websites that where you can buy a template. So that I choose one to make it easier for me to launch a website where you can mint the NFTs. So if you not have a lot of HTML knowledge, then is this really interesting for you. Of course, step 5 is one of the most important parts around NFTs is social media. So using Twitter, everything to promote your NFTs. And if that is going well, then I finally could launch my NFTs during the minting. What actually resulted in sold out within 10 days. So it was, I think I was the first person that did it for reality on the Apillon platform. So it was really nice to do the whole circle. And the last part for me was listing it on an NFT marketplace. Of course, I used it before sometimes to buy an NFT, but never did a listing. So I did that part with Moonbeams. It was also especially for Moonbeam, and for me it was in 1 or 2 days I could publish my whole collection by simple filling in listing details form. Could I list the whole collection on the marketplace? So with that part, last part, I completed the whole circle from creating an art till listing it on an NFT marketplace.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And I shared the link of the Moonbeams collection on the chat as well, so people can check it out. So yeah, I think it's like you presented the full circle, right? And like it's like you said, you don't come from like a Web3 experience and you don't have substrate experience. So you basically use all these services using Apillon, without even having to understand the complexities and technicalities. So yeah, thanks a lot, Bram, for taking us through your journey. And so yeah, I mean, unfortunately, we don't have a lot of time left. So I saw, Nino, that you actually answered to a question in the chat. There's another follow-up question from Socrates. So Socrates asked, about the DIDs. Socrates, just because of time, I would encourage you to find Apillon in their communities, and you can actually ping Nino. So I'm going to put you on the hook, Nino, for that. So you can ping Nino, so ask a question about that. But yeah, thanks a lot, everyone, for tuning in. Thank Nino and Bram for joining from the Apillon team. And yeah, come check out the next Moonbuilders workshop. We'll inform you guys through socials. And Nino, I don't know if you want to check or share a little bit of the socials as well from Apillon and everything in the chat. Feel free to do so as well, okay?
Its contacts are included in our slides, but I will put in the chat my personal Twitter if anyone is to connect there.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, everyone, for joining. And yeah, we'll see you in the next Moonbuilders workshop. Thanks a lot, guys. Have a nice rest of the week.
Okay. Thank you. Bye-bye.